Good afternoon. May I welcome everyone to the 14th meeting in 2020 of the Delegated Powers and Law Reform Committee. We have apologies today from two of our members, Mary Fee and Gil Patterson. Under Agenda Item 1, we are considering an instrument subject to the provisional affirmative procedure. This means that the instrument is already in force but will lapse unless approved by the Parliament within 28 days. No points have been raised on the Health Protection Coronavirus Restrictions Scotland Amendment No. 2 Regulations 2020, SSI 2020-126. Is the committee content with this instrument? Content. Thank you. Under Agenda Item 2, we are considering instruments subject to the negative procedure. Town and Country Planning Miscellaneous Temporary Modifications Coronavirus Scotland Regulations 2020, SSI 2020-124. This instrument makes temporary amendments to various town and country planning regulations to alter requirements to hold public events or hearings or to make information or documentation available for inspection in a public place. The instrument was laid before Parliament on 14 April 2020 and came into force on 24 April 2020. This does not respect the requirement that at least 28 days should elapse between the laying of an instrument which is subject to the negative procedure and the coming into force of that instrument. The committee is therefore required under standing orders to draw the instrument to the attention of the Parliament under reporting ground J for failing to comply with the requirements of Section 28.2 of the Interpretation and Legislative Reform Scotland Act 2010. Does the committee therefore wish to draw this instrument to the attention of the Parliament under reporting ground J? Great. The committee also looks at the Scottish Government's reasons for the breach, which in this case are set out in a letter to the presiding officer dated 14 April 2020. It explains that this is to allow the planning system to continue to function during the emergency period in order to support future economic and societal recovery and avoid delays to necessary infrastructure and other developments. Is the committee content with the reasons given for the failure to comply with Section 28.2? Thank you. Education Miscellaneous Amendments Coronavirus Scotland Regulations 2020, SSI 2020-128. This instrument makes amendments to timescales set out in various education regulations to provide education authorities and education appeal committees with greater flexibility in how they carry out their statutory responsibilities in relation to education placing requests and school exclusion decisions. This instrument was laid before the Parliament on 22 April 2020 and came into force on 23 April 2020. As with the preceding instrument, this does not respect the requirement that at least 28 days should elapse between the laying of an instrument which is subject to the negative procedure and the coming into force of that instrument. Does the committee therefore wish to draw this instrument to the attention of the Parliament under reporting ground J? The Scottish Government's reasons for the breach are set out in a letter to the presiding officer dated 22 April 2020. The letter explains that at present 30 April is the deadline for considering placing requests made before 15 March. If these requests are not processed by the deadline, they would be deemed to be refusals which would trigger a right of appeal. As a result of the current coronavirus outbreak, education authorities are reporting significant difficulties in providing the necessary resources needed to successfully carry out the placing request process and the consequent appeal hearings. It was considered important to amend the timescales before the 30th April deadline to give parents and education authorities certainty about the entire process as soon as possible. Is the committee content with the reasons given for the failure to comply with Section 28.2? Thank you. Thank you, and I will now close the meeting